Ashes of Allegiance, Chapter 1. The weight of the wire, the burn pit was flaring again. Orange light licking the concertina wire like it wanted inside. I stood on the plywood porch of our team room, coffee gone cold in my hand, watching the smoke rise straight up into a sky the color of a fresh bruise, December in Paktika. The mountains looked close enough to touch, but they were 20 clicks away and full of people who'd kill me for being here. Inside, Elias was cleaning his rifle for the third time today. Habit. Keeps the hands busy when the mind won't settle. Amir was hunched over his laptop, earbuds in, probably watching some Afghan music video to remind himself there was still a world outside this shithole. The rest of the team was scattered. Jim, Chow Hall, sleeping off the last patrol. I should have been planning tomorrow's mission brief, but I couldn't stop staring at the wire. Something about the way the smoke curled through it made me uneasy tonight, like the base was breathing out poison and pretending it was normal. Footsteps on gravel. I didn't turn. I knew the cadence. Eli, Kessler's voice, low and easy, the same one that talked me through my first firefight back in 9. He stopped beside me, hands in his pockets against the cold. "You good?" I took a sip of the cold coffee just to buy a second. "Yeah, just thinking. About the op." "Always," he nodded, like that made perfect sense. Ryan Kessler had a way of doing that, making you feel like whatever was eating you was reasonable, shared. He was taller than me by an inch, still carried himself like the quarterback he'd been in college. Hair going silver at the temples now, but it looked distinguished on him. Everything looked distinguished on him. "Plan solid," he said. "Best intel we've had in months. The financier's definitely at the compound. Drones confirmed heat signatures match the pattern. We go in quiet, snatch him exfil before dawn. Your boys are the best for this." My boys like he wasn't part of it anymore, sitting in the tube pushing pins on a map. But that was the deal. He'd moved up. I'd stayed down in the dirt where I belonged. I read the overlays, I said. "Routes clean. Village elders say the Taliban pulled out 2 days ago, too clean." He gave a small laugh. "You always smell a trap. Keeps us breathing, fair." He bumped my shoulder with his. "Look, I triple-checked every source. This one's good. Trust me." I did. God help me, I did. I turned to face him fully. The floodlights caught the lines around his eyes. New ones, deeper. "You look tired, brother." "Paperwork," he said, rolling his eyes. "And Whitaker breathing down my neck about optics. Always optics." He paused, then quieter. "My girls sent a video this morning. Emma lost another tooth. Sophie's learning to read." His voice did that thing it always did when he talked about them. Softened around the edges. I felt the familiar twist in my gut. I'd never had that. Sarah and I talked about kids once, early on, but deployments kept coming, and then we stopped talking about anything at all. "Tell them Uncle Eli says hi," I said. "Will do." He checked his watch. "Brief at 2000 hours, get some rest before then." He walked off toward the headquarters building, boots crunching steady on the gravel. I watched until he disappeared into the glow of the talk. Trust me. I finished the cold coffee, set the mug on the railing, and went inside to check my team's gear one more time. Something in my chest felt heavier than usual, but I chalked it up to the altitude, or the cold, or 15 years of this life finally settling in my bones. I had no idea it was the last night I'd ever look at Ryan Kessler and see my brother. Chapter 2. Last light on the objective. The briefing room smelled like burnt coffee and dry erase markers. The projector hummed, throwing the satellite image of the target compound onto the pull-down screen. A cluster of mud walls in a narrow valley 30 clicks northwest of the fob. Kessler stood at the front, laser pointer dancing across the imagery like it was second nature. I sat in the back row with my team, arms folded, watching him work the room the way he always did. Calm, precise, making Colonel Whitaker nod along like a bobblehead. Elias was to my left, scribbling notes on his kneeboard. Amir sat 2 seats down, translating the key points into Pashto under his breath, prepping for the Elder Shura we'd do on the way in. "Primary objective," Kessler said, circling the main Kalat in red, "is the HVT, goes by Abu Said al-Masri, ISIS-K finance facilitator. Drone tracks show he arrives every Thursday for collection, stays 48 hours, leaves Sunday morning. We hit tomorrow night. Saturday, he'll be fat and happy, guards complacent. He clicked to the infiltration route, a dotted green line that started at a pre-staged HLZ in a dry Wadi 8 clicks out, followed a goat trail along a ridgeline, then dropped into the valley floor for the final 800 meters on foot. OTA 3116 will insert via 2 MH-47S, fast rope into the HLZ at 130 local. From there, 2 assault elements, Alpha led by Captain Harlan, Bravo by Warrant Officer Park. Alpha takes the main compound. Bravo isolates the adjacent Kalat and sets blocking positions on the eastern escape route. I nodded to myself. Standard pin and flank. We'd rehearsed it 100 times. Kessler clicked again. Thermal overlay. 12 heat signatures in the main building, 4 in the smaller one. 2 roving sentries on the perimeter. No crew, served weapons observed. We go in quiet, suppressed M4S peak -15s, PVS -31S breach. Charges only if necessary. We want the HVT alive if possible. Intel says he's got ledger details on funding streams out of the Gulf. He paused, scanning the room. Exfil same route. Birds on standby with QRF from the 160th. Questions. Reyes raised a hand. Row if we take fire. Positive 499 required for lethal force outside the compound. Inside, if they present weapons, drop them we're advised and assist. Remember. Kessler's mouth twitched, shared joke. Everyone in the room knew the Taliban and ISIS-K didn't read the memo. I leaned forward. What about the village 400 meters south? Elders cleared us. Kessler met my eyes. I met with the Malik myself yesterday. Gave him the usual rice, blankets, promises. He says the valley's clear of Taliban this week. They pulled north after that drone strike on their commander. Too convenient, part of me whispered. I shoved it down. Brief ended at 2045. We filed out into the cold. My team clustered around me on the gravel outside the talk. Reyes spoke first. Feels light. 12 fighters for a financier that high on the list. Could be arrogance, I said. Or bad intel. Amir shrugged. Or they're keeping the guard force small to avoid attention happens. I looked at each of them. 12 men I'd trust with anything. We treat it like it's heavy. Full rehearsal tomorrow at the kill house. Actions on the objective, break contact drills, sensitive site exploitation, no shortcuts. They nodded. That was that. Back in the team room, we started the real work. I spread the 150 AM zero map on the plywood table. Reyes pulled out the sand table we'd built from satellite prints and foam core. We walked the route again, fingers tracing the terrain. From the HLZ, I said. We move single-file 5-meter intervals, halts every 200 meters for listening. Ridgeline here has loose scree. Watch your footing or you'll sound like a rock slide. Amir marked danger areas in red grease pencil, 2 draws that could hide technicals, a saddle where the wind would carry sound straight to the village. I assigned sectors. Alpha, I've got point with Doc Reyes on drag. Bravo covers our 6 until we split at phase line green. We rehearsed the breach sequence in slow motion on the floor using tape to mark walls and doors. I'd take stack left with the breacher, Reyes right. Flow through the courtyard into the main building. Amir glued to me for immediate translation if we grabbed the HVT conscious. By 200, we had it locked in. Gear laid out in sequence. Kit, weapon, Nevada G's, comms check, medbag. I ran the near-far recognition signals one last time, or strobe flashes, call signs, challenge, and password. Reyes caught me alone as the others racked out. You're quiet tonight, sir. Just focused. He studied me a second. Kessler's plan is tight. He's got our backs. Yeah, I said. He always does. I stepped outside for a smoke I didn't really want. The burn pit had died down to embers. Stars were out hard, the kind you only see at altitude. Somewhere out there, past the wire and the mountains, Abu Said was sleeping under the same sky, thinking he was safe. I crushed the cigarette under my boot. Tomorrow night we'd remind him he wasn't. Chapter 3. Into the valley, the Chinooks came in low and fast rotors, thumping like a heartbeat in my chest. We fast roped into the HLZ at 134, gloves smoking from the descent. Boots hit dirt, weapons up, immediate 360 security. The birds peeled off north, red lights blinking out against the black. Cold hit like a slap, breath fog. I keyed the handset, all elements, red dog, actual feet dry, moving. We patrolled in 2 files, bounding Overwatch along the ridgeline. The terrain was brutal loose shale that shifted underfoot, forcing us to move deliberate. Every few minutes I'd raise a fist, drop to a knee. Listen, wind in the pines, distant dogs in the village, nothing else. 2 hours later, we reached the final phase line, a rocky spur overlooking the target valley. I glassed the compound with the 31S. Green glow, heat blooms inside the walls, sentries moving slow, Alaska S slung lazy, no thermal on the rooftops. Sloppy, I passed the word, objective in sight. Alpha and Bravo split here. Hark took his element right to set the block. My 8 followed me down the slope in a ranger file, slow and silent. We hit the valley floor at 350, 600 meters to the outer wall. We leopard crawled the last 200 using a shallow irrigation ditch for cover. Dirt in my mouth, heart steady. At the wall, I stacked the team. Breacher placed the flex linear charge on the wooden gate minimal, just enough to blow the latch. I looked at Reyes. He nodded. Amir right behind me, pistol drawn. I squeezed the clacker, soft pop. Gate swung inward. No alarm, we flowed through like water. Courtyard empty, 2 buildings, main house left, smaller storage. Right. I pointed 4 men with me to the main. Reyes took the other 4 to clear the small kalat and set security. I pieced the door, flashbang in, rolled left. 2 guards in the anteroom, half asleep, reaching for rifles. Suppressed shots. Thump, thump. They dropped. We cleared room to room, methodical, living area, kitchen, storage. Voices deeper in Arabic agitated last door. I nodded. Breacher blew the lock. We poured in. Abu Said was there, scrambling for a pistol on the charpoy. I shot him in the shoulder. Clean. He screamed. My guys zip-tied him fast, gag in mouth. Then the world exploded. RPG from the smaller Kalat Reyes' sector. The blast lit the courtyard orange. Automatic fire ripped across the compound, PKM by the sound of it. Contact left, multiple fighters. Reyes' voice calm but urgent. My mind raced. That building was supposed to be storage, 4 heat signatures max. They'd been waiting. I keyed the net, all elements. Break contact, exfil, rally point, Bravo. But the fire was disciplined, interlocking from prepared positions. They knew exactly where we'd breach. We fought our way back to the gate, dragging the wounded HVT. Doc was working on Park. He'd taken fragments in the leg on the block position. 2 others down. I popped IR chemlights for the birds, called the QRF. The Chinooks never came. Instead, tracers arced overhead from the ridgeline. We'd just patrolled down our exfil route. We were boxed. I looked at the burning compound, at my men bleeding in the dirt, at the HVT whimpering. Someone had told them everything, and the only name that made sense was the one I couldn't say out loud, not yet. First, we had to survive the night. Chapter 4, Ghosts in the Hills. We didn't exfil. We disappeared. By the time the sun bled over the ridgeline, the 8 of us who could still walk had dragged our wounded into a cave system 2 clicks north of the burning compound. Park was critical femoral artery nicked by shrapnel, but Doc had clamped it and pumped him full of Texa. The HVT, Abu Said, was zip-tied, gagged and shivering in the back, shoulder wound packed with quick clot. We left 3 Kias cached under rocks with IR strobes for eventual recovery. No choice. Reyes and I squatted at the cave mouth, Nevada G's flipped up, watching the valley through thermals. Taliban technicals were swarming the objective now, picking over what was left. No American birds in the sky. No QRF radio chatter on the guardfreck was quiet. Too quiet. They stood down the birds, Reyes said, voice flat. Or someone told them not to launch. I didn't answer. Couldn't yet. Amir crawled up beside us, whispering, I picked up ISIS K-coms on the ICOM. They're calling it a victory, said the route. The breach point, even the HLZ were given to them by a friend inside the wire. A friend inside the wire. The words sat in my gut like bad chow. I keyed the MBter on our internal team freak. Low power. All elements. Red Dog actual. We're going UW. Phase 2 rules. No contact with higher until we know who sold us. Unconventional warfare. The thing Green Berets were born for, but never on our own soil, never against our own chain. We'd trained Afghans to do this for 20 years, survive, evade, build resistance, strike back. Now we were the resistance. First task, survive the day. We moved deeper into the cave, set security in shifts, and started the UW checklist I'd taught 100 Afghan commandos. cash supplies. We stripped the dead of ammo, batteries, Nevada Gs, and Menores IS, everything else sensitive items. Crypto destroyed with thermite. Established comms, discipline. Radios off except for scheduled bursts on alternate freaks we'd never briefed higher on. Old school one-time pads pulled from my demo kit for any messages. Area study. Amir knew these mountains. His father had fought the Soviets here in the 80s. He sketched escape corridors, water sources, sympathetic villages, known Taliban strongholds. Link up with auxiliaries. This was the gamble. There were still pockets of anti-Taliban resistance in Paktika, former ANSFEF commanders gone to ground, tribal militias who hated both the Taliban and ISIS-K. If we could reach them without getting betrayed again, we might live long enough to figure out who burned us. By nightfall, we'd moved again. Single file, anti-tracking drills the whole way. Bounding Overwatch, brushing footprints with pine boughs, crossing streams to break scent for dogs. Classic Sarah, but offensive-minded now. We cached the HVT in a separate overhang, 2 men guarding him. He was leverage. Alive, he might talk about who on the American side had warned ISIS-K dead. He was just wait. On the 3rd night, we made contact. Amir led us to a goat herder's hut high on a terraced slope. The old man, Haji Gul, had lost 2 sons to the Taliban. He fed us naan and tea, eyes flicking to our weapons but never widening. Fear and respect in equal measure. Through Amir, he says there is a commander, former ANA colonel named Rahmatullah, hiding in the next valley. He fought with the Americans before the fall. Still has 20 men, some RPGs, a few M4s left behind. They raid Taliban checkpoints when they can. I nodded. Can he get us there unseen? 2 days walk through the high passes, snow coming. Snow was good. Covered tracks. We left before dawn, Haji Gul's grandson guiding us. 12 years old, barefoot in the cold, moving like a shadow. The boy took us along shepherd trails the Taliban never patrolled, over ridges where the wind screamed and the air thinned to nothing. We taught him hand signals as we went. By the 2nd day, he was pointing out IED indicators like he'd been born to it. On the evening of December 31, 2025, we crested a final spur and looked down into a hidden valley. Smoke rose from a single compound, camouflaged with pine branches, sentries in mixed us and Afghan kit. Rahmatullah met us at the tree line himself, tall, bearded, missing his left hand from an old Soviet mine. He studied my face, then my men, then the blood on our bandages. In Pashto, through Amir, you are the ones they say were ambushed. The radio says you are all dead. Not yet, I said. He smiled without humor. Good. Dead men cannot fight back. We shook hands, forearm to forearm, the old way. Inside the compound that night, around a dung fire, we started planning the next phase of unconventional warfare. Organize, train, equip the resistance. But my target wasn't the Taliban or ISIS-K anymore. It was whoever in my own chain had sold us out, and I was starting to have a name. Chapter 5. The Ledger. Rahmatullah's men gave us a mudroom with a tin roof and a view of the stars through bullet holes. We slept in shifts, cleaned weapons, treated wounds. Park was stable, barely. Doc had fashioned a crutch from pine branches. Abu Said was in a storage pit, hands and feet bound, fed just enough to keep him talking. I went down there on the 2nd night with Amir and a single chemlight. The financier looked smaller now. Fear does that. The swagger was gone. I crouched in front of him. You're going to tell me who warned you we were coming. He spat blood, Arabic curses. Amir translated anyway, calm. Then he added something in Pashto that made the man go pale. I waited. Finally, an American officer, major, he used signal, dead drop for the money crypto wallet. He said it was to fund a bigger operation against the Taliban, that you were collateral. My blood turned to ice. Name. He never gave a name. Only a code. Quarterback. Quarterback, Kessler's old college position. I stood up slowly, the chemlight swinging shadows across the pit. Outside, snow had started falling, thick, silent flakes that muffled the world. Reyes was waiting when I climbed out. You get it? Yeah, he read my face. It's him. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Instead, I said, we're going to train these guys like we trained the commandos in 21. Area ambush, vehicle interdiction, SEE raids, but our real target is the FOB comms tower. I want everything Kessler's touched: emails, ops logs, finance records. Reyes nodded slow. That's going up against our own. No, I said. It's going up against a traitor. There's a difference. Snow kept falling. Somewhere down the valley, a wolf howled. Phase 3 of UW guerrilla warfare. We had the terrain, the auxiliaries, and now the motivation. Kessler thought he'd buried us in that valley. He was wrong. We were just getting started. Chapter 6, Quarterback. Snow kept falling for 3 straight days, turning the hidden valley into a white bowl where sound died, and every footprint was a confession. Ramatullah's men trained hard dawn to dusk, battle drills, improvised explosives from fertilizer and det cord we'd cached, night raids on empty ridgelines to practice movement. My team led the instruction like we'd done 100 times before. Only now we were teaching men how to fight the people who'd once paid their salaries. I watched it all from a distance, cataloging, planning, but mostly I replayed every conversation I'd ever had with Ryan Kessler. 15 years of them. The night he talked me out of quitting after my first troop took 60% casualties in the Korengal. The deployment he showed up at my dad's funeral in West Virginia, stood in the rain in dress blues while I shoveled dirt on the casket. The time in Bragg when Sarah served me papers and he sat with me in a dark bar until closing, not saying much, just there. Trust me, he'd said on the porch that last night. I'd believed him because believing him was easier than imagining a world where he'd sell my men for money. On the 4th night, the weather broke. Stars came out sharp enough to cut. I took the sat phone we'd pulled from a cached Pelican old SF issue, crypto loaded with keys that hadn't been updated since the withdrawal, and climbed to the high point above the compound. 1 bar of signal. Enough. I dialed a number I hadn't used in 2 years. Sarah picked up on the 3rd ring. Her voice still did that thing to my chest. Eli. Yay. Long pause. They told us you were Kia, all of you, not all. Another pause. I could hear her breathing, careful. Where are you? Can't say you alone, yes. Quieter. Whitaker's got the group on lockdown. Official story is your team walked into an ISIS complex ambush. Bad intel from the Afghans. I laughed once, no humor, that the line Kessler's feeding everyone. Silence stretched so long I thought the call dropped. Sarah, he's different, she said finally. Since you went missing, he's running the investigation himself. Keeps saying it wasn't anyone on our side, that the leak had to be Afghan. I closed my eyes. Snow crunched under my boots as I shifted weight. You still have access to the zipper drive. Limited. They're auditing everything. Check the ops folder for our mission. Look for the finance overlay Kessler briefed. The one with the Gulf funding streams. Ely, please, she sighed. I heard keyboard keys. Then nothing for a full minute. It's gone, she said. Whole subfolder wiped. Metadata says Major Ryan Kessler deleted it 2 days after the op. My pulse slowed to something cold and deliberate. There's more, she went on, voice barely above a whisper. He submitted a promotion packet last week. O5 board convenes in February. Whitaker's his primary endorser. Word is it's tied to decisive action against ISIS-K finance networks. Decisive action. My men dead, me erased. His ticket punched. I stared down at the compound lights flickering below. Ramatullah's sentries moving in slow patterns. One more thing, I said. Check his personal finance manifest. Anything routed through crypto. I can't. You can. She didn't answer for a long time then. I'll look. But Eli, if this is true, it's bigger than him. Whitaker's been pushing for a win to justify keeping the fob open. Congress is asking questions about funding. I already knew that. Had suspected it the moment Abu Said said, quarterback. Kessler hadn't just sold us for money, he'd sold us for a narrative. A dead Oda makes a hell of a justification for more troops, more budget, more time. My team for his star. I have to go, I said. Eli, wait. I love you. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Old habit, tell the girls Uncle Eli's still out here. I killed the call. Back in the compound, I found Reyes cleaning his rifle by lantern light. He didn't look up. Get anything? Yeah, he waited. It's him. He deleted the evidence himself. He's going for Lieutenant Colonel on our graves. Reyes set the upper receiver down slow. You sure? Sarah confirmed the wipe, and the HVT gave me his old call sign, quarterback. Reyes exhaled through his teeth, motherfucker. I sat across from him. The lantern painted hard shadows on his face. I keep thinking about his kids, I said. Emma's gap-toothed smile in those videos he showed us. Sophie learning to read. I held her when she was 6 weeks old. Reyes didn't say anything. I taught him how to call for fire in Ranger School. He was scared of the radio. I sat with him until he got it right. Still nothing. Now he's warm in the talk drinking coffee while Park's leg rots and 3 of our brothers are under rocks. Reyes finally met my eyes. What do you want to do, boss? I thought about forgiveness, about turning him in through channels, about the army taking care of its own. Then I thought about the RPG blast lighting up the courtyard, about carrying Park through the snow while he bled out on my shoulder. I want him to feel it, I said, every degree of cold we felt, every second of doubt. I want him to know what betrayal costs before I put him in the ground. Reyes nodded once. Then we bring the war to him. Outside, the wind picked up, driving snow against the mud walls. Somewhere downrange, Kessler was sleeping under electric blankets, dreaming of silver oak leaves. He had no idea the ghosts he'd made were already moving south through the passes, and we knew every trick he'd ever taught you. Chapter 7. The Dead Drop. Rahmatullah gave us 4 of his best fighters, quiet men who'd grown up smuggling across the border. We married them with my remaining team, 6 Americans, 4 Afghans, 10 shadows. We rehearsed the raid on a mock-up fob built from scrap wood and concertina in a side valley, breach points, guard posts, comms tower, the S3 hooch where Kessler slept. The plan was classic UW direct action: infiltrate close, isolate the target building, snatch Kessler and the servers, exfil before QRF spins up. But I added something personal, a dead drop. On the night we moved, January 8, moonless and -20, we cached Abu Said's laptop in a culvert 2 clicks outside the fob wire. Inside was a single encrypted file, the recording of his interrogation. My voice asking questions, his voice giving up quarterback. I left a flash IR strobe on the cache, programmed to blink a pattern only one person would recognize, the old challenge we'd used in Ranger School. 3 long, 2 short. Kessler would see it on the drone feed. He'd have to investigate alone, because if anyone else found it first, his world ended. I wanted him to come to me. We hit the fob wire at 300. Suppressors only. 2 guards down with knives, Rahmatullah's men, silent as smoke. Inside, we split. Reyes took the comms tower team to pull drives. I took Amir and 2 Afghans straight to the S3 hooch. The door was unlocked. Sloppy. Kessler was at his desk, back to me, headset on, watching a drone feed on his laptop. The IR strobe blinked on the screen. 3 long, 2 short. He froze. I stepped into the light. He turned slow. His face, God, his face. Shock, then something worse. Recognition of what he'd done. Eli. I raised my suppressed M4. On your knees, quarterback. He didn't move. The betrayal wasn't in the selling us out. It was in the way he looked relieved to see me alive. Like part of him had hoped I'd made it. That made it worse. Outside, I said. We're going for a walk. He stood. For the first time in 15 years, I didn't trust a word he was about to say, and I was going to hear them all anyway. Chapter 8. The Walk. We moved through the fob like ghosts, Kessler in front of me, hands flex cuffed behind his back, Amir and one of Rahmatullah's men on our flanks. No alarms yet. Reyes's team was still in the comms shack, pulling drives. We had minutes, not hours. I steered him past the burn pit, embers glowing low, and out through the same breach point we'd used coming in. The wire closed behind us with a soft snip of bolt cutters. Snow crunched under our boots as we climbed the low ridge east of the base. Same direction his drone had spotted the IR strobe. 50 meters out, I stopped him under a stand of pines. The fob lights were faint now, muffled by falling snow. Wind carried the distant thump of a generator. I shoved him to his knees. He didn't resist. I pulled the gag from his mouth, a rolled-up shemag, and let it drop. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Just the wind and our breathing. Then he said my name, soft, like he used to when one of us was hurt. Eli. I leveled the M4 at his chest. Suppressor steady. Start talking. He looked up at me. Snowflakes caught in his lashes, melting fast. His eyes were the same gray they'd always been, the ones I'd trusted in a dozen countries. I didn't think you'd make it out, he said. The words hit harder than any punch. That's your excuse. My voice came out rougher than I wanted. You didn't think we'd live, so it was okay to sell us, he flinched. It wasn't like that. Then tell me what it was like, Ryan. Tell me how my men ended up under rocks because you needed a fucking win. He swallowed, looked down at the snow between his knees. They were cutting the fob, he said quietly. Whitaker got the memo from CENTCOM, drawdown by spring. All advise and assist missions terminated. No more funding, no more bodies. My promotion board was in February. If the group closed, my packet was dead. Everything we've done here, gone. I felt the rage climb my throat like bile. So you fed ISIS Cake, our op, to keep your career alive, not just mine, his voice cracked. The whole group, hundreds of guys still rotating in. If we could prove the threat was real, prove we needed to stay, by killing us. He looked up again, eyes wet now, not from snow. I told them to wound, not kill. I gave them the HLZ offset by 2 clicks, the breach point on the wrong gate. I thought you'd take casualties, pull back, and the HVT would escape with the ledger. We'd chase him, disrupt the network, get the extension. Nobody was supposed to die. I laughed. Couldn't help it. The sound scared even me. Park's leg is gangrene. Doc amputated yesterday with a Leatherman and morphine. 3 of our brothers are fertilizer for poppy fields, but sure, nobody was supposed to die. His head dropped, shoulders shaking. I'm sorry, he whispered. Sorry doesn't bring them back. I know. I stepped closer, muzzle almost touching his forehead. Tell me about the money. He didn't hesitate now. 200,000 in Bitcoin routed through 3 wallets. They said it was for operational support. I told myself it was to fund informants, to keep the resistance alive after we left. Bullshit. You bought a lake house in North Carolina. Sarah saw the transfer. He closed his eyes. Yeah, I did. Silence stretched, snow piling on his shoulders. You held my daughter at her christening, I said. My voice was shaking now. You were my best man. I wrote your ORs. I carried your ruck when you blew out your knee on the 12-miler. I remember, he said. Do you remember the Korengal? When I dragged you out of that burning wrap and you cried in my arms because you thought you'd never see your girls. He was crying openly now, snot freezing on his lip. I remember every day. Then how? The word broke. How the fuck could you do this to us? He looked at me, tears cutting tracks through the dirt on his face. Because I was scared, Eli, scared of going home to nothing. Scared of being the guy who lost the war. Scared my kids would grow up thinking their dad was a failure. You always had the dirt. The teams, you were good at it. Pure. I got moved up to staff and I hated it. I hated watching you guys do the real work while I pushed pins and lied to colonels. I wanted to matter again. I felt something tear inside my chest. You mattered to me, I said. You were my brother. He nodded, couldn't speak. I lowered the rifle an inch. Emma still has the gap from her front tooth. He smiled through the tears. Lost the other one last week. Tooth fairy's going broke. Sophie reading yet? Chapter books. Magic treehouse. I closed my eyes, saw them in his photos. Little hands waving at the camera for Uncle Eli. When I opened them again, the rifle was back up. Stand up. He did slow. I cut the flex. Cuffs. He rubbed his wrists, staring at me. What happens now? You're going to walk back in there. You're going to upload every file Reyes pulled, every email, every transfer, every deleted log. You're going to confess. Full written statement. Then you're going to face it, court. Marshal, prison, whatever. He blinked. And if I don't, I stepped close enough to smell the coffee on his breath. Then I drag you back to the valley. I put you in the same pit we kept Abu Said in, and I let my men decide what happens next. Reyes lost his best friend. Doc lost his patient. Amir lost 3 cousins to ISIS-K last year. You do the math. He searched my face. You'd let me live. I haven't decided yet. He nodded once, swallowed hard. Okay, I handed him the dead man's radio from my kit, our internal freak. Reyes, this is actual package is compliant. We're coming in static. Then Reyes, copy, gates open. Kessler started walking back down the ridge. I followed 3 paces behind, rifle low but ready. Halfway there, he stopped, didn't turn. Eli. What? I really am sorry. I didn't answer. He kept walking. The betrayal wasn't the sale. It wasn't even the money. It was that I still loved him enough to give him the choice, and I hated myself for it. Chapter 9, The Confession. We walked Kessler back through the breach at gunpoint. Reyes met us inside the wire, eyes hard, rifle slung, but finger-indexed. The rest of the team had already exfiltrated with the drives and Ramatula's men. Only Amir stayed with me. Kessler didn't fight. He sat at his own desk in the S3 hooch, hands trembling slightly as he opened the laptop. I stood behind him, M4 across my chest. Amir guarded the door. He wrote the confession himself, voluntary sworn statement, DA Form 2823. I watched every word appear on the screen. I, Major Ryan M. Kessler, do hereby confess to the following acts in violation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. He detailed the signal chats with the ISIS-K intermediary. The deliberate offset coordinates meant to wound, not kill. The Bitcoin transfers, wallet addresses, amounts, dates. The deletion of the finance folder to cover his tracks. The coordination with Colonel Whitaker's knowledge. He claimed Whitaker only knew about creative intelligence sourcing, not the full betrayal. It took 2 hours. When he finished, he signed it electronically, then printed 3 hard copies. One for me, one for him. One he said he'd hand carry to the 399 detachment in Bagram. I zip-tied his wrists again, looser this time, and marched him to the 399 tent myself. The duty agent, a stunned captain who'd heard the official Kia story, took the statement with shaking hands. By dawn, Kessler was in pretrial confinement, a guarded connex with a cot and an MME heater, standard for officers accused of espionage, adjacent offenses. I didn't sleep. Chapter 10, Article 32. They flew in an investigating officer from Bagram 3 days later, Lieutenant Colonel Grace Huang Jag, sharp as a bayonet. The Article 32 preliminary hearing was held in the base theater, plywood benches, space heaters rattling against the cold. I testified first, still in the same blood-stained kit I'd worn on the objective. My voice didn't shake, but inside I was coming apart. Huang asked direct questions. Captain Harlan, did Major Kessler admit to providing operational details to hostile forces? Yes, ma'am. Did he express intent for your team to take casualties? He said he intended non-lethal wounds to justify mission extension. The enemy exceeded his parameters. Were financial transactions involved? 200,000 in cryptocurrency, ma'am. Confirmed by the seized laptop and his confession. Defense counsel, some major from group who'd flown in overnight tried to poke holes. Isn't it possible Major Kessler was running an authorized covert influence operation? No, sir. We don't pay ISIS-K to ambush us teams. Could the confession have been coerced? You held him at gunpoint. I offered him a choice, confess through channels or face my team's justice. He chose channels. Huang bound the case over for general court. Martial in a minute flat. Charges preferred. Article 104 T. Aiding the enemy. Article 92 Fode Dereliction of Duty. Article 81 Thoven Conspiracy. Article 134 T. Conduct bringing discredit upon the armed forces. Article 107 False official statements. For the after-action lies, Maxi. Penalties stacked. Life without parole, possible death. If the convening authority pushed it. Kessler looked at me once as they led him out in cuffs. No hatred. Just exhaustion. I didn't look away. Chapter 11. The panel. The General Court Martial convened at Fort Bragg, now Liberty, in April 2026. 10 members, 5 officers, 5 enlisted, all 05 and above or E9. Colonel Whitaker had been relieved and was under investigation himself, so the convening authority was a 2-star from 18 Airborne Corps. The courtroom smelled like polished wood and tension. Kessler took the deal they offered the week before trial, plead guilty to everything except aiding the enemy. In exchange, the government capped confinement at 30 years, no death penalty referral. He stood in dress greens, no decorations. He'd stripped them himself before the plea. The military judge, Colonel Reyes, no relation, asked the standard questions. Major Kessler, do you understand that by pleading guilty you waive your right to trial on these specifications? Yes, Your Honor. Are your pleas voluntary? He glanced at me in the gallery. I sat front row class as new Silver Star pinned for the exfil and resistance actions. Yes, sir, completely voluntary. The Providence inquiry lasted 90 minutes. He described every act in detail, dates, messages, wallet addresses, the moment he realized the enemy had ignored his non-lethal instructions and slaughtered my men. When he spoke about the girls, his voice finally broke. I betrayed my best friend. I orphaned children who called me uncle. I accepted money to gamble with American lives. There is no justification. The panel retired for sentencing. They were out 4 hours, 30 years confinement, forfeiture of all pay and allowances, dismissal from the service, the officer equivalent of a dishonorable discharge, reduction to E1. He stood at attention while the president read it. I watched his face. He didn't flinch. Afterward, in the hallway outside, his defense counsel asked if I wanted to meet him in the conference room. Last time before he shipped to Leavenworth, I almost said no, but I went. He was in cuffs again, escorted by 2 MPs. They left us alone, door open. He looked smaller in the orange jumpsuit they'd already issued. I wrote them, he said first. Emma and Sophie. Told them I did something terrible and I have to go away for a long time. Told them not to hate you. I nodded. Sarah's filing for full custody termination. She should. Yeah, he swallowed. I don't expect forgiveness, Eli. I need you to know I think about them every second. Park's leg. The Kias. I see their faces when I close my eyes, I believed him. I'll check on your girls, I said, from a distance. Make sure they're okay. His eyes filled. Thank you, I stood. That's all I've got, he nodded. As I reached the door, he spoke one last time, voice barely audible. I was wrong about what mattered. I didn't answer. I walked out into the North Carolina sun and didn't look back. The Army buried our 3 Kias with full honors that summer. I carried the flag for one of them. Kessler started his sentence in June. I put in my retirement packet in July. Some betrayals you survive, some you carry for the rest of your life. This one was both. UCMJ Article 104, Aiding the Enemy. Article 104 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ codified at 10 U.S.C. Section 904, addresses one of the most serious offenses in military law, aiding the enemy. It applies to any person subject to the UCMJ, including active duty service members, and in some cases reservists or civilians under military jurisdiction. Text of the article: any person who aids or attempts to aid the enemy with arms, ammunition, supplies, money, or other things, or without proper authority, knowingly harbors or protects or gives intelligence to, or communicates or corresponds with or holds any intercourse with the enemy, either directly or indirectly, shall suffer death or such other punishment as a court, martial, or military commission may direct. Note, this article does not apply to military commissions established under Chapter 47A of Title 10 for certain terrorism-related cases. Key elements of the offense to convict under Article 104: the prosecution must prove beyond a reasonable doubt the accused committed one of the prohibited acts, aiding, attempting to aid with material support, or unauthorized communication, protection, when intelligence sharing. The act was done knowingly for the second clause and without proper authority. The recipient was the enemy, defined broadly as hostile forces, opposing us armed forces, including armed belligerents, insurgents, or terrorists like ISIS, not limited to declared wars. Intent or knowledge that the act would benefit the enemy. Important notes from the Manual for Courts. Martial 1900. Actual receipt of aid by the enemy is not required. The attempt or act itself suffices. No mutual communication is needed, e.g. one-way intelligence drop. Providing intelligence includes operational details like routes, timelines, or positions that enable enemy action. Maximum punishment: death or such other punishment as a court martial may direct, e.g. life imprisonment, dishonorable discharge, total forfeiture of pay and allowances. The death penalty is authorized but rarely sought in modern cases unless aggravating factors exist, e.g. wartime betrayal causing deaths. In practice, plea deals often reduce charges to avoid capital referral. Historical and practical context: Article 104 is rarely charged in peacetime, but has been used in conflicts involving non-state actors, e.g. Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. Proving specific intent and knowledge is challenging, requiring strong evidence like communications, financial transfers, or confessions. Notable appellate insight in United States v. Anderson 68 MJ 378. The Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces held that Article 104 charges do not preempt lesser offenses under Article 134 General Article if facts overlap. In scenarios like providing operational intelligence to insurgents causing U.S. casualties, this article fits directly, though prosecutors may plead to lesser charges, e.g. Article 134 conduct prejudicial, for easier conviction. For the most current details, refer to the latest Manual for Courts, Martial 2024 edition, or consult a military justice expert as interpretations evolve through case law.